welcome to the Heroes Global Championship. I don't know if you just saw that little teaser right before the video, but if you want more on Tuesday here on this channel, we're going to have the Hanamura cinematic, the full video being available for you to watch, so make sure that you are here. Let's get today started, man. My name is Trixler, and to the left is Caldor, and we have some European action coming your way.
Yeah, we definitely do. We have some great games today, actually. We're going to kick things off with Fnatic going up against the playing Ducks, and especially the Ducks showed some incredible games against Team Liquid just last week, so Fnatic, they need to be very careful here.
Well, let's get an idea of what everyone is currently doing in the HGC. Let's check out all the regions and look at the global standings. Currently over in North America, Tempo Storm still reigns supreme with an 8-1. Gale Force Esports right behind them. Solid games yesterday. Europe, Team Liquid 9-0, dude. They have been dominating and continue to do so. Fnatic has a chance today, though, to maybe move up one more game here because they'll be a little bit ahead. It may be only for a 4 to 6 hour window, but hey, at least they'll be up there. Korea, L5, 10-0. They do not stop. They dominated last week with 2 3-0s. And China, 3-0 right now. E-Star Gaming currently still leading the chart. So overall, we've got a lot of great teams. North America, the only region not to have an undefeated team.
Yeah, the question, of course, is always like, how long are you undefeated? Team Liquid last week, it could have actually broken that streak. It was so close. It came down to the last map in the end, and as we said before, a lot of people argue that the playing Ducks could have taken the series with a 3-0 on Towers of Doom. So Team Liquid, they need to be careful here.
What's crazy to me is that possibly Synergy faces off against Team Liquid tomorrow, and there is a chance they might be able to play Team Liquid and beat them based on what's been going on. Let's go ahead and check out the standings overall. Team Liquid, 9-0, Synergy down there with a 2-7.
Yeah, exactly. And you talk about Synergy, and the thing is that Team Liquid, people have been saying, yeah, they don't look as crisp as they did in the first part of the season. Synergy, on the other hand, they're playing stronger and stronger. We could observe that yesterday when they're playing against Trick. They had some really nice approaches with the Probius, even on Sky Temple, that nearly worked out for them. Vala as a hyper carry, very aggressive playstyle from the Russian team as we're used to. So Team Liquid, they need to be careful. Of course, going into tomorrow's games, you would expect them to take the series, but at the same time, they underperformed a little bit against the playing Ducks, who played out of their mind. And if Synergy is able to just get the ball rolling, there could be a bit of an upset happening.
That will be crazy. That is tomorrow's matches. Today's matches, though, let's talk about that. The Playing Ducks and Fnatic will kick off this Saturday with an exciting match. The Battle of the Ducks is what we will deem it. Quackgate's trying to prove that he is the original Duck. Team Expert and Trix Esports, our second match, and then North America later on today.
And you mentioned Quackgate's, and it's so funny because early on Twitter, he immediately went out and said, like, okay, boys, it's time to prove today to PD that there's only one Duck in the Nexus. And that's, of course, him. So I'm very curious to see if they can pull it off, but I love it.
A lot of exciting stuff today. You get a lot of Duck puns, but you also get to have great gameplay. Vala versus Greymane will be the real major story of playing Ducks versus Fnatic. Fnatic has been running so much Greymane as of late, and no one's really punishing them and stopping them from doing that. And then you look at the playing Ducks, and they love this double support strategy running Vala. So now we get to watch these assassins clash, which will be quite the exciting thing to watch.
For me personally, one of the things that I really want to see today is how well the Ducks can perform. Because we saw them twice so far. We saw them against Dignitas, and they got pretty crushed. There was no chance for them to win the series, and it felt like Dignitas really had their numbers. Then just 2 days later, you see them going up against Team Liquid, and it's like a completely different team. They played so well there. And I still feel that one of the main contributors to that is Sport Billy, who on high-impact heroes like Zeratul, Medivh, and also his Falstad with great gust, is just really a guarantee for them to do well. And I want to see if teams are starting to target him a little bit more with bans and counter picks to make sure that he doesn't have that impact on games, because he seems to be carrying his team quite a lot.
Well, let's see what the players actually think about the match coming up today.
We are gonna be playing versus playing Ducks. It's the same, like whenever it's not like one of the top tier teams, it's the same that they should prepare something, you know, kinda cheesy, and we just have to make sure that we don't fall into a trap and make sure that we draft standard. I have to give it to them that they did a really good performance this weekend, and I've heard on Chris's stream as well that they're really happy with the performance, but I also think that Team Liquid was playing pretty bad. As long as we do our thing and draft decent, I think we will win.
It's really hard to prepare against Fnatic because they have so much ways to draft. They don't play only one way. Like they have a lot of options. So I think it's one of the hardest to prepare. And we figured it out after Dignitas, so we completely changed our draft a bit, and it's fitting better for us actually. If we have the right draft and if you have a good game plan, we can always beat them. Even if we don't win in the end, it's like only good for us because we learn a lot.
Yes, the question today is which playing Duck shows up? Is it the Mighty Ducks? Is it going to be the Pleb Ducks? What is the answer here? Who shows up against Fnatic?
Mighty Ducks or Playful Ducks? We're going to find out.
I'll see. Don't put that in my head. I can't get on the Playful Ducks thing. It'll get stuck, and I get so many messages about it.
Sorry.
You can't bring that up. Let's figure out which battleground we're going to for game number 1 in this best of 5 series. Cursed Hollow will be the battleground that we are moving to. This is a choice of Fnatic. Just so you know, bans Dragonshire. Fnatic constantly getting rid of that battleground, and Sky Temple not being played.
Fnatic goes through interesting phases here where they just don't want to play one particular map.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that we see Cursed. I'm probably one of the few people that fanboys Cursed Hollow quite a bit because it's a very stable map and you have a lot of options where you can use different strategies. I mean, a double boss play, for example, can be absolutely great. And with the Curses, you have so many choices of what you can do. Your draft is also quite flexible. It's one of the maps where we've seen Vikings, we've seen Abathur. There are odd picks still, but they are possible here. So I enjoy watching Cursed Hollow matches a lot.
It's one of the original OGs. The strategy's been really figured out over the last couple of years that the battleground's been around, and it's always a joy to watch. And it really works for these playstyles for the teams. Greyman's great on this battleground when you actually want to get a team fight. Falstad, something that could be pulled up for both teams. Sport Billy and Quacknix running that Falstad. And then, of course, you always have the wonderful Zarya and Medivh, which is something that could pop out here.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's one of the maps where we see most of the big team fights evolve around bosses, where a Medivh with a good leyline seal can steal it away. In the past, you had Zeratul before it got changed a bit that could simply Void Prison, walk in, steal the boss. We had Falstad with Mighty Gust, Tyrael with Holy Ground. So there's a lot that happens on that battleground, and also where just teams start to figure out new ways of how to outsmart opponents.
That Void Prison, those were dark days, man, when a Void Prison can steal a boss. There was so much crying on Twitter. Playing Ducks will ban out Falstad for the reasons that we just explained. One of the great heroes for clearing out that boss, can steal it away. Also just great for soaking, things you want to make sure you take away from your opponents.
Yeah, at this point, it's also, of course, a Fnatic trademark to really focus heavily on globals in general. I feel all the top 3 teams, Dignitas, Fnatic, and Team Liquid, are very macro-oriented in that sense. They are drafting the double globals when they can, when it fits the map and the playstyle, and they excel at simply abusing that.
What's interesting about that is you talk about the top teams being so good at globals, their communication's always been on point, but now we're starting to see a world where mid-tier teams are just picking hard engage. They're going for the variants, they're going for these hard fights that just allow for them to excel and maybe get a pick or two, and we have seen them get picks off of the big teams because of that. So are globals starting to fall off a little bit, or are the teams that are just running as 5 just hoping to get those picks?
I would say that globals are always going to have their place. In this case here in the draft that we have at hand, you see our Elsa an immediate pickup on the Dehaka. But I feel one of the important points to note is that other teams just prioritize different strengths. For example, Synergy and Trick that we saw yesterday, they had high priorities on team fights. They really want to bring the fight to their opponent. But if you have a team that is that good at macro as Dignitas, Team Liquid, and also Fnatic are, then they will always have the opportunity to play around you if they have the globals. And that is just something that sets a really good team apart. So globals will always play a role, but there's different priorities for different teams. And the Playing Ducks here with a ban on Falstad have now the opportunity to pick the Haka up. That allows them already a fair amount of soak on the offlanes.
Well, last week from Playing Ducks, we saw them actually pick up a little bit more Arthas, more Zarya, more support-oriented heroes. Getting the Dehaka for the Playing Ducks allows for them to be a bit more aggressive in that global strength. So it's good to see them adjust and switch it up. How does Fnatic respond? Greymane typically is picked up often by them, and there it is. There is a Fnatic. Usually we see them grab a second support here, or their first support, whether it be Lucio or even Malfurion, but they grab Arthas.
So they have the Arthas now, and I like that Greymane by now has the high priority. You could really see that develop over the last 2 weeks, where Greymane started to come in, not only talking about HGC Europe right now, but also when we had a look at, for example, Dom, which was really interesting to see that it's a bit different when we're talking about priorities, focusing on Dom as amateur teams, compared to what we have here in the professional scene. But even there, you could see that Greymane started to sneak into the drafts. At first, it was a pretty low priority, and it just rose slowly and steadily. We saw that in HGC Europe mirrored last week, and now all of a sudden, Greymane is a first pick. I don't think it's going to take very long for him to be amongst the first mans again.
Yeah, his impact is so strong here. He gets the engages, he puts out more damage on the upfront side than Vala does, for instance, and she's more generalized. And then you have kill potential with your go for the throw, or you even have the option to go for Cursed Bullet, which opens up fights great. Which, by the way, that is buffed on the live patch now, so we are going to have stronger Greymane playing going in the future. All right, so we have our lockdown, we have our Greymane already here for Fnatic. Over to the Playing Ducks, what are we thinking?
I think Medivh or later on a Zeratul. There we go. Okay, so this is exactly what I've been talking about a bit earlier, and we mentioned it the last time the Playing Ducks were playing against Team Liquid. they need a hero for Sport Billy that can have that high impact. And so far, he has 3 heroes where he really excels making plays for his game, for his team. That's the Falstad with good Mighty Gust, and even more so than Falstad, either Medivh or Zeratul. He played Zeratul on Towers of Doom the last time against Team Liquid. He looked very strong doing it. And with his Medivh play, especially on a map like Cursed Hollow, he always had great plays there. And he can just, with those leyline seals, have a massive impact. Also, of course, getting the shields out there, Force of Will. He's just fantastic on that hero. So it doesn't surprise me at all that Medivh is picked now.
Yeah, think about it last week against Team Liquid where he had the 4 snipes and one of the best plays that we saw out of the entire weekend. The Medivh play is just so strong, and Playing Ducks understands it. Okay, we're going against one of the best teams here in the league. Let's put Sport Billy in a position where he can make the plays and we just follow up.
It's also important to highlight quickly that they picked Medivh already in the second rotation, and that is because they understand that Fnatic, of course, knows this as well. Fnatic is not looking at Playing Ducks and is saying like, okay, we have no idea why these guys are winning. They know exactly what's happening. So if Playing Ducks don't pick the hero now, Fnatic would either pick it themselves and assist Greymane in those fights, or they would ban him out. So that was a smart choice by Playing Ducks to just set the priority for Medivh this high. Lucio then, of course, gives them the support that they really need. And the combo between Medivh and Lucio is something that we've seen a bit more often. Lucio is that healer over time. He doesn't really have that massive burst heal outside of his heroic ability. That has, of course, that little wind up there. But if you have a Medivh that can just like save a target in the last moment, so that it gets into the back line, Medivh heals it slowly up, then you are in an absolutely fantastic position.
And Tychus is one of those heroes that actually is starting to get a little bit more played as of late because he's great with Lucio. The overkill into the engage, you're able to be a little bit more mobile, which takes away from that short range that he has, but also because the Playing Ducks prioritize him pretty heavily. They played him a couple times in the last weeks, and the first few weeks he was picked every single match that it was available. So the Playing Ducks now losing out on that Tychus, which will force him down the Vala route.
The thing that you talked about with the Tychus is also important to note since we have an Arthas on the other side, and one of the biggest problems that Arthas always had was mobility in general. So you are committed to a team fight. It's very difficult for you to move out of the fight if things don't really go your way. If you go up against the Tychus, you can't just move away from him. So he chunks down your hit points, and then you're already sitting at 60-50% HP. And you get a lot less value engaging into a team battle. So in this sense, as you said, Lucio together with the Tychus against an Arthas is a fantastic scenario for the Playing Ducks. That's why they ban out, or Fnatic bans out Tychus, just making sure that this is not going to be used as a tool against them. Yeah,
and just one more point on top of that. If the Arthas does get on Tychus and drops the Howling Blast, and we're going to have Greymane go for the engage, you just pop Odin, and then you have 25% resistance with the shield barrier. You can turn around the fight. So all these things are just a perfect ban that line up here for Fnatic. Li Ming and ETC. Now, ETC, we've been getting less and less of him over the last few weeks. It's kind of risen to dominance, but now we have ETC on Breeze, which we love seeing that, and we have our Li Ming here.
Yeah. So Li Ming, Shrimpy is going to be very happy about that. He loves playing Li Ming. We have ETC, as you already said, for Breeze, and together with Arthas, this is once again a lot of control in those fights. You have a lot of tools available to yourself right now, where you can just simply try and control the opponent with a good power slide, with a Howling Blast. And all these lockdowns are going to matter against what Playing Ducks are currently drafting. For them, we would expect the Vala to be picked now. You've been already talking about this a bit, since we have the ban on Tychus and Greymane already taken. Vala is a hero that they love to play. They have either Sport Billy on Vala, which in this game is most likely going to jump on the Medivh. But also, of course, Chris is playing an absolutely fantastic Vala, so I wouldn't be surprised if they use her here in this game.
And so all about the tank now. Do we get Johanna or do we get Varian here for the Playing Ducks, just to fit out here for Chris Explosion?
I would say Johanna is very likely, considering what they did in the past, but nope, they actually go for the Varian this time. So it's like 2 of the tanks that they play the most for Chris Explosion. He's one of the tank players that also has a bit of an affinity for Johanna. We have other teams that do that as well, but I feel just in the second half of part 1 and up to now, Johanna has been a high priority for them. But with Varian, they have a few additional tools here. So I actually like this with the parry build. He's going to be very difficult to kill if he can get a charge in on a target and Dehaka moves in through a brush and then simply uses the tongue. And we can immediately have a good lockdown against a single target where Vala can capitalize on with the damage.
Yeah, I'm on board here with the Varian pick simply because of Medivh. The Portal Land, the Engage, the Taunt, all this hard aggressive play that the Playing Ducks is starting to really trademark now as of late with their Medivh is available due to that Varian. It will be later stages where it comes online, but it's a little bit better with Varian than it is Johanna. If Medivh wasn't here, we would probably see a Johanna.
One of the most interesting things to me, and this is probably something that our viewers also picked up on already, is that we do not see Malfurion yet, which is a bit crazy if you think about it. Normally Malfurion has such a high priority. He's finally being picked here, but that is a last pick Malfurion right now. And to someone who follows the scene and followed the drafting in the last few
It's
weeks,
bonkers.
it's kind of crazy. But it shows that now that we're heading into the season again, the teams are starting to be very familiar with the other's playstyle. So this is the cool thing about a league. You're not only drafting meta, you're drafting against a specific opponent. You know what they like to play, and you are just counter-picking what they usually use. So therefore, some heroes fall down in priority a little bit, whereas others are just rising. This is exactly what we're seeing here, and I think that's the beauty of running a league like HGC.
Yeah, it's completely beautiful to watch that. With Lucio being taken away, suddenly the double tank with Lucio kind of falls off a little bit, so Malfurion isn't a priority anymore. And now he's kind of this pick where it's like, do we get Malfurion or do we get Rhaegar? And you have to think about actual numbers at that point, and it's just such a cool thing to actually think about. So now, with the draft being said and done, Caldor, who do you look at here to have a solid game one?
I personally like both of the drafts. I really feel you can see the idea here behind it. We have Greymane as an engage. He's trying to get the resets for Li Ming. 2 tanks at the front line with a lot of control, so Fnatic has a very solid draft. But at the same time, playing Ducks, I feel got what they wanted. They have a global, they have Medivh, they love to play with him here, and they can now enable Vala to be hyper-aggressive. So I feel both teams walk away with a draft that they're very happy with. Personally, I would give the edge to Fnatic, just simply because I feel they are overall the stronger team. But depending on how Medivh comes into play right now, if Sportbilly can get those great ley line seals again, this could definitely be something where playing Ducks is just saying, okay, first game is ours. But I would give a slight edge to Fnatic still.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. The Medivh variant really is going to make it here for the playing Ducks. I mean, the aggression, the coordination together, and the communication. If they can get the picks on Li Ming in particular, or Malfurion on the back line, they can be devastating. But in terms of overall composition, Fnatic looks great. Let's go ahead and get started here. Cursed Hollow, game number 1, best of 5 series, playing Ducks, taking on Fnatic.
Playing Ducks versus Fnatic, game number 1, everybody, on Cursed Hollow, of course. And starting to the left side of the map, we have Fnatic, the Swedish dream team, our boy band, with Wooby on Arthas, Smexy on Malfurion, we have Quacknix on Greymane, Shrimpy on Li Ming, and Breeze on ETC.
And to the right, the playing Ducks in the red. Medivh will be played by Sportbilly. Watch for him to make the plays. Vala on Chris. Wolf Joe will be on Lucio. Nande will be playing Dahaka. And last but not least, Chrisplosion on Varian.
Chrisplosion on the Varian here. And as we are talking about Medivh, the one thing to really note is that with Medivh, of course, it's not only your own skill that is important when you have a Medivh in the team. It's also how good is the team, or how is the team able to play with a Medivh? Do you react to those portals? Is the communication really on point? This is why oftentimes, even if you have a decent Medivh in a Hero League game, just simply because people aren't used to play with a Medivh, you can still fall short, even if he has a big impact, because people don't use the portals as fast and as a unit as they should.
This is the first game of the day, Caldor. Don't remind me about Hero League Medivh. You can't start doing that. Come on,
Sorry,
man.
I didn't try to trigger yet.
So 3 people on the top. We're having the fight back and forth so far. Varian's in the middle against ETC. Dahaka against Arthas. Now, Dahaka can do really well against Arthas. He can move in that lane, he can push it, but if he goes to actual trades, Arthas can actually win out that trade overall. So should be seeing Dahaka just pushing as much as he can. This is an odd middle lane, though. ETC versus Varian.
Yeah, this is definitely a bit of an odd lane, but Shrimp is already helping out. We saw one thing up at the top that I want to quickly talk about, and I think this is really important to note. We have Medivh on the side of the playing Ducks, but you could already see that once a portal was put into place, that we saw immediately the route for Malfurion. And that's a really important part. It's not only the route, it's also the Howling Blast and also the Power Slide. So if you use a portal right now, you need to be very, very careful where that portal is, because Fnatic is going to try and shut these portals down by simply using them to their advantage. Power sliding through a target that moves through, using a Howling Blast, all the routes, just to diminish the gain that playing Ducks can get out of a portal.
That's a good point. The root being there, the power slide, but also the knockback from ETC. He can actually stop someone from getting back in the portal, and Fnatic can take that opportunity to get a reset with Li Ming and Greymane. That's actually going to be really scary for the playing Ducks to deal with, so definitely need to be thinking about that. Now, we are moving towards 2 minutes, and also level 4, the 2-minute rule, as we always talk about. Grab those giants, should be popping up pretty soon. Fnatic is a bit more well-equipped to do this because they have Greymane, so they move over and start doing it now, whereas the playing Ducks have their tanks in the bottom and the middle, so they can't really actually afford to move down and grab the giants.
Yeah, it's really one of those things where I can just only recommend that if you want to learn something for your own games, then just take this away from this match here. At 2 minutes into the game, you have the mercenary camp spawning, with the exception of the bosses that spawn at 3 minutes. So at 2 minutes in, you want to have 1 or 2 heroes at the Siege Giant camps, claiming that, and then move back. It's just going to be in time for the first tribute, and you have 3 heroes holding the experience on lane. But this is definitely a move that you see in the pro scene, like, all the time. In this case, it's only Fnatic that makes that play. Playing Ducks are gambling a little bit, saying they're going to get more value out of their own mercenary camp later on, and they're hoping for the tribute now, of course, to spawn up at the top lane so that they can poke at the tribute, knight to Fnatic, and at the same time clear the Siege Giants and now pushing through.
Wow.
If they get lucky.
That was a really late portal or tribute as well. It happened at 2:51. Super late there overall, but the playing Ducks are in a good spot to defend. As you mentioned, they lucked out on the RNG. They should be able to sit up here on the left side. And the good news for them, too, is they can play aggressive here. They have Dehaka that can float in. Now, there is always a threat of Arthas pushing. In fact, Arthas in the bottom lane has started getting aggressive because of that. He doesn't want Dehaka to leave without losing experience. Fnatic starts to poke here on the left side.
Yeah, Fnatic starts to poke, and they already went through the wall up at the top, so that's pretty decent for them. You know, on level 4 talents right now. But as you already said, Dehaka, he can burrow in if he wants to, but that would come at a cost since he would lose experience. Arthas would try to push the lane through a bit more, but so it would only be worth it if Dehaka can get a kill. Here we have those power slides, but Wolfjo in the back is able to get the tribute. So the playing Ducks is getting slightly ahead with the objective, but that comes because Quacknix is currently busy in the mid lane.
Yep, Fnatic was banking on that. Whether one of the tanks left middle or bottom, they just left members in their lanes to push in. Greymane able to get a turret there. That puts them a little bit ahead in experience. They get to level 7. Now, of course, playing Ducks, with their trade-off, they grab the tribute instead, so they should be in a safe spot as long as they don't lose any members before level 10.
You can really tell that on the pro level, teams are completely willing to every now and then give up tributes and just simply try to get an advantage outside of that. The problem here is once again communication. If you are together in voice, you can always communicate that properly, and you can simply say, guys, stall out the tribute, don't fight, just don't die. We're going to get a tower here in the middle, we're going to get some experience at the bottom, and that's going to work in our favor in the long run. It's really difficult to do that when you're playing in a scenario where voice chat is not an option. But yeah, the kill that we just saw was very well done. It was, again, Breeze. We talk about him and his ETC. His stats are insane on that hero. It's simply because he is so good to identify these opportunities where he can get a kill.
Yeah, he just puts Duck on a silver platter, man. Straight it, get it over to Schwimpy. Schwimpy comes in with the damage, kills him off instantly.
Yeah, and once again, the slide perfectly timed. He's trying to go for Medivh. Sportbilly zoned out, and that's the kill right there. 2-0 in kills for Fnatic, now that we're heading slowly and steadily towards level 10.
It's interesting. You watch Fnatic, and you're used to this kind of play from them when they're playing globals. They don't have globals on their comp here, but they are rotating better than they're playing Ducks right now, getting into their engages. The body blocks were fantastic from Breeze in particular on that spot, where Sportbilly, not having his portal, couldn't get out.
The thing is, Breeze is always looking good in those professional games. The one thing that I can just recommend to everyone out there is if Breeze is actually streaming and playing EGC, watch him play that hero in Hero League. It is incredible. This is a pro level, so you will look at things and you are seeing like him making plays and they lead to a kill. This could be another one, by the way, this time without his assistance. Yes, Nanda is dead. But the astonishing part is really, this is high-level play, right? So this is really the top 8 teams in Europe. If you see him going up against more random players, even Grandmasters in Hero League, what he can pull off with an ETC over there is insane. It is crazy how these tiny windows get exploited by him. And that makes him currently the best tank, actually, in the league.
In the league, you say?
Yeah.
I think so. All right.
Well, in Europe.
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with you. It's actually nice to hear that someone has that thought, that opinion here. So the fort being focused down here in the bottom right, Fnatic did a really, really solid game.
It's not an opinion. That is like...
That's fact, period?
That's right there. Him and Blumby are currently like the best 2 tanks in the league.
I was going to say, I was thinking about Blumby too, but I actually didn't have the stats on hand there. So there we go. Fnatic and the Playing Ducks facing off. Playing Ducks are getting close to 10. They would like to fight over this tribute. However, they can't overstep their bounds until they hit that 10. And Fnatic knows it. Look at them pushing every single angle forward, so the Ducks don't have a chance to even move.
Yeah, Fnatic is playing this really well right now, and the rotations that you spoke about earlier, this is something that really makes it difficult for the playing Ducks to make any plays. But now they are 10, and as so often with Varian in particular, level 10 is just such a massive power spike because you get that taunt in. The short cooldown really helps you to make plays. And you might notice that Vala went into the Rain of Vengeance, so they really try to capitalize on a good taunt or a ley line seal. Not going into strafe which we oftentimes see from Chris, but instead they're now moving into even more lockdown. Get a good leyline seal, Vala follows it up. Get a taunt in there. There is going to be a Dehaka or a follow-up with Vala, just like trying to lock a target into place and blowing it up. So this is really where especially, of course, Smexy comes into play again. He needs to be on point with those cleanses.
And just to point out that Vala too a little bit more, we have the Quest Puncturing Arrow. There's only 4 of the 20 shots have hit so far for that Vala. She has the 20 damage available right now. So watch out for that, as it should be getting close to done around the 13 to 14 minute mark. That's usually where a lot of players want to get that finished up. And that will spike the damage heavily here for the Playing Ducks to do that follow-up that you just mentioned. The Rain of Vengeance into the Hungering Arrow, Volt again, drop it, hopefully burst down a target.
Yeah, Master's Touch, of course, also going to be a big part of that on Medivh, trying to make sure that he gets a bit more value in these fights now as well. Currently on 3 stacks, working on it. And the next tribute is already on the map. And here comes the engage. Once again, the protection on the side of Medivh. They're all starting to jump in. Here comes the leyline seal. Vala trying to get into position too. But already Lucio dropping his own ult. And that's a lot of cooldowns that just got burned by the Playing Ducks.
Both cooldowns down, Mosh Pit also being used, so Heroics are missing for our teams. There will be Taunt and Rain of Vengeance still available though, so we should be able to have an engage from the Playing Ducks if they would like to move in. However, Fnatic is very robust right now. They have a lot of health set up. Malfurion has been topping them off, and with Wubby using Army of the Dead, they just didn't take any damage on their health bars. The Playing Ducks are being forced to retreat.
Playing Ducks are forced to retreat. Dehaka rooted into place by Smexy. Varian up at the front once again with the parry, but they are getting more and more space towards the tribute where they are aiming for a quick channel. But all those portals are really giving them a hard time. We talked about their rogue abilities. They're starting to come back online here now, especially, of course, since Taunt is such a close cooldown cleanse being used to save Wubby. But the Ducks are starting to gain ground.
They are starting to gain ground here. Wubby getting low on health, but also mana. Varian taking damage over here on the right side. 13 just hits for Fnatic.
And that's a big, of course, advantage now. Nanda low gets out with a portal. Well done, Varian on the run as well. Breeze waiting for an opportunity to slide in, but a quick Rain of Vengeance is stopping him. Chris is now finally isolated though, and Quatnix is taking him down. The red team cursed as Fnatic picks up the tribute, runs with the lead here, has the talent lead, has the curse against them, and it finds himself into a 5 versus 4 situation. Great advantage for them, and they are trying to capitalize on it by simply taking the boss.
Yeah, Swarbilly floating around. He does have Leyline Seal, although you shouldn't probably jump this one here. Fnatic should spread out at the last second to make sure they're set up and that boss cannot be stolen. Members are moving in though. There's a Haka on the back left side. Swarbilly comes in, sitting on the side. Does drop the Force of Will. Wubby floating around. Leyline Seal doesn't connect, but Quatnix gets the nice call here. Will be able to take the boss. Great control from Fnatic.
Was really well done. They immediately see what the problem could be here with Medivh being around. They split. They make sure that it's not going to happen. So in this case, Playing Ducks, they buy a bit more time. Fnatic now has a boss moving through. They're of course aiming for a keep here. The curse is good for another 13 seconds, and that should be enough to break through the wall and put incredible pressure onto the keep and potentially dropping the first one. Only 10 minutes into the game.
Especially with the 3-level lead, Fnatic is such a good spot here to keep moving. 13 talent still not here for the Playing Ducks to keep being focused down, and they get it easily. Look at that boss though, it's so healthy.
The boss is still quite strong, but it doesn't really do that much damage yet. It didn't scale too well, so Fnatic should not be able to finish here, but they're actually pushing the envelope. They're hoping for a kill, and if they get it, that might change fast. Lucio with his own ult moving in. Twilight Dream being used by Smexy. Fnatic is going for it, and Medivh is down. That might open an opportunity for Fnatic to actually end the game.
Nande with the adaptation will live here, but he gets bursted once again. There we go. He falls. Swimpy starting to go off. There's one. There's two. A third here on the left. Chrisplosion starts to retreat to his keep, and the core, it begins to fall.
Fnatic goes for it. Really impressive fight here for them, and they take the game. They take the lead, taking down the Playing Ducks on the first map curse solo. Impressive play.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I think it comes back to the point that you brought up during the draft that Swarbilly is one of these players that goes for these big plays. He never got the opportunity. There was so much control set up for there. The Malfurion roots, HGC consistently looking out for him. Fnatic just knew who to lock down, and the Playing Ducks just faltered.
It was actually very impressive that they went for the core here. With a 10-minute boss, you normally don't get all that much value. You are able to take maybe one of the structures down. With them earlier eliminating the fort, they could move straight to the keep and drop that. And because, as you said, the boss was still on nearly full HP, they just simply stuck around and was thinking, hey, if we can get a kill, we might be able to do this. And all of a sudden, they get 2 kills, and they're like, okay, guys, game's open. Let's finish it right now. And that killer instinct, that is incredibly important if you play against a team that is also so used to late game.
Yeah, and I think that composition that they did have, Fnatic really allowed for them to go that route. They had the reset city available, Greymane and Li Ming. And the moment the resets come in, that's when they can go for the core. Had they not had Greymane and Li Ming on the same team, I think they maybe would have pulled back a little bit or put some damage on the keep, as you mentioned. But when you're Fnatic, that killer instinct, as you just mentioned, you have to pull it out occasionally, and they went for it there. The playing Ducks, not quite ready. They're going to fall down 1-0 to Fnatic. We'll be right back with game number 2.